What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations. 2020 Innovation Award winner, 2018, got that wrong. 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Also, I am the host of the only online show in the world for dads and fathers that is sponsored by Dove Men Care. It's also co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. And in collaboration with those two organizations, I've been blessed to come in contact directly or indirectly with over 75,000 fathers this year. And I'm very humbled about that. One other thing I do, I am the board chair for the Global Food and Drink Initiative, which is a multimedia not-for-profit that showcases Blacks in the diaspora that are doing their thing in food, drink, and travel. And as always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We're broadcasting live on September 12th on Black Canada Talking. Yes, Black Canada Talking is back after a little bit of a break. And what is it all about? Black Canada Talking is a live online event that provides Canadians the opportunity to give their takes and POVs on stories that are of importance to them. Or we also showcase great Black Canadians that are doing their thing. Today, we have the opportunity to share and find out more about a gentleman named Tarig Abdellatief. He is the president and proposal funding specialist at Arctech Accelerate, launched in 2018 in Ottawa, the nation's capital of Canada. His organization, Arctech Accelerate, Arctech Accelerate is a national leader in grant writing, business development, and lobbying sectors, representing organizations across a wide variety of industries with a robust team consisting of PhDs, MBAs, and professionals backed by a wealth of experience. Arctech Accelerate is able to provide effective solutions to their clients' projects, whether it be for grant writing, contract procurement, strategic partnerships, and more. And some of the industries that they do work with: technology, military, healthcare, energy, not-for-profit, social enterprises, charities, and more. And over the last, I'd say, 16 to 18 months, if you know what's been going on in the Black environment, getting funding, getting proposals, there's a whole other story about all that's going on. That's why I thought today would be good to have Tarig with us. So let us welcome Tarig. How are you, sir?
Hello, it's a pleasure to meet everyone. I'm doing excellent. Thank you for having me.
And you know what? We did not do this on purpose. We're both wearing blue. And so we're in line in regards to that. And we were supposed to have him on a few weeks ago. He had a little bit of a accident in his activities. So we got him back today, and looking forward to our conversation that we're having today. Let me first ask a little bit about your background. Can you share with us your background growing up, younger Tarig, before you became this powerhouse, in my opinion?
Well, my pleasure. I'd be happy to. So I was actually born in North Sudan, in Khartoum. I came from a military family, and my dad was involved in some politics over there. And we ended up in getting some friction with the government over there and had to leave at an early age. So when I came to this country, I always see my family, and my dad is really, really hard workers. We had to rebuild everything from the bottom down. We did have a strong North Sudanese community in the area where I was raised, which was a Stony Creek Mountain / Hamilton Mountain region. And it was a really good childhood. And from there, I picked up the entrepreneurial bug early. It started off from trading cards to editing videos for people, just anything to do, make money on my own. And this was before the age I was legally able to incorporate a business. But after this, I got into the grant writing space, or the proposal space, because I started off, my jobs were in business development. I'll take a step back. I went to McMaster University for business, and I really enjoyed that. But however, I really felt like I wanted to get my feet wet and jump into the industry right away. So as soon as I finished my bachelor's, I actually didn't go and complete an MBA, but I went right in and I worked in business development for companies like Canon, for American Express, Centurion, and that really opened my eyes and showed me the kind of opportunities that were available out there in the world for entrepreneurs. So after I felt that I picked up enough business development and proposal experience to those organizations, I started my own company, and it ended up doing quite well. It actually started off in 2016 as Arctech Academy. However, our business grew at an exponential rate, a lot faster than I anticipated. And from there, we started adding on more services organically over time and through the request of clients, and we grew to a point where we became Arctech Accelerate in 2018, as you mentioned, and we've just been trucking along since then. And hopefully, we're hoping to open our second location in Toronto in the very near future. Right now, we're located in Ottawa, Ontario, and it's been a really great place to start as a business development, lobbying, and grant writing firm, just because many of the decision makers for these programs are here, and we can build some relationships that can benefit us and our clients much stronger than if we were, far away in like Ontario. I mean, than in New Brunswick. It's good to be in the center where the action's happening.
Sure. Thank you for sharing some background. I have one or two conversation pieces I want to dig a little bit deeper in. Where did you get your foundation for entrepreneurship? Was it back with the family in Sudan, or was it during the time you were working for these other companies saying, you know what, I got to break out on my own?
I always think I had the entrepreneurial bug. It took me a little while to discover that. When I was a kid, I was always trading things with my little brothers, and I ended up being on the better side of the deal at all the time. So I always had a knack for it. But I'd say where I officially was committed to becoming an entrepreneur, and I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to get into business, but I didn't know what, was shortly before university. This is when I was becoming a lot more analytical and understanding why I wanted particular jobs. For example, my parent, they wanted you to be a doctor. They wanted you to be an engineer, as any other parent from that side of the world will try to force you to be, or in law. But I didn't want those jobs. And the entire time that I was agreeing with my parents, it was because I thought it was the right thing. It was prestigious. It's something that I like to do. But I started asking myself the right questions about why I wanted to get into certain things and why I liked, business. And it turned out that it's primarily because I like new challenges, and a new business is always a new challenge. Helping a new client or a new entrepreneur, helping them in their business is always a new challenge. But I knew I liked helping other people in their business, and I knew that from high school, and just like helping some of my friends open up these small little shops. And then from there, I was like, you know what, I want to try going into business. I think I like helping people. I like new challenges. I like the side of commerce. And then I studied that. That's why I got into business. But at that point, I still didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to be in the end of commerce. And does that help to answer the question? I think you're muted. I can't hear you on your end.
I am good. There we go. So you decide to start this journey. Why did you want to focus specifically in these areas of grant writing, contract procurement, strategic partnerships, and more? Why did you focus? As you did say, yes, I wanted to become an entrepreneur. Why did you choose this specific area or these specific areas?
Good question. So I'd say I kind of fell into it. I started off working in training and certification, and I used a grant to power the training and certification for our clients. For example, I would find all of the different resources so that this service that I was offering was at no cost or as little as cost as possible to our clients. So I picked up the skill of understanding how to, write proposals to the government and to help businesses pay for my services. But then from there, you'd have client ask us if we could write other grants, like, for example, a Can Export grant or a Innovation Solutions Canada program grant. So it was really the market that pushed us to add more grant writing services. And over time, we shifted away from the training and certification and started focusing primarily on the grant writing. And that really spoke to me, and I think it interested me a lot because I like, as I mentioned, helping a variety, all different kinds of businesses. And when you're talking about grants and proposals and arguing to the government why a particular company should receive funding, is something that can be applicable to a wide range of different clients, and I can help a lot of different people. So it was a combination of, having that initial interest, and then the opportunity of having this company and having clients ask me to get into a particular type of, service offering. And then that's the reason why I got into it and how I got into it. But then I think the reason why we grew so well is because it became a passion of mine. I think it was very, very fortunate to start this kind of a business that pushed me into opening up a grant writing and proposal business. And when I ask you about the lobbying side, that's funny as well, because that is also very organic. We had a client that wanted to sell this particular innovation to the government. It was for a tender procurement. And a tender essentially just means a contract, a government contract. Just like to use the words tender. That's the terminology. But he wanted to sell a particular technology to the government. However, this technology, what it did is essentially it converted trash from landfills into biodiesel, into diesel fuel that could be used. So instead of garbage just sitting there for thousands of years in the landfill. However, in our law, under municipal law, it was written that it would still consider garbage, even if it was converted into the fuel. The fuel, under the definitions under the legislation, was written as of garbage. So we had to argue then, to the local government, local municipal government, and city councilors that there should be an amendment made to the legislation. And not knowing that that's lobbying work. So I fell into lobbying work, not understanding I was doing lobbying work, until a city councilor here, he let us know that, okay, it's probably a good idea to register as a lobbyist, because that's by law, you have to do that, and you have to follow particular reporting laws. And
wow,
so that's another industry I fell into. You can't, as there's a lot of opportunity for abuse in that industry, so it's heavily regulated. But that's the one industry pushed you to another industry, and I think that's what it was. I mean, one service pushed me to another service, and that's how I got into this, which is the same skill set of me being able to recognize opportunities for clients. I apply to myself, and I try to grow that way, organically and slowly, but in a sensible direction. That's shows some continuity with what I've already been doing.
Nice. So are you then a registered lobbyist?
Yes. Well, myself, it expired.
Yeah.
But many of my staff are.
So I want to go down that rabbit hole just a little bit, because I don't think many Black Canadians know that side of business government relations. What is a lobbyist, and what do they do?
Good question. That's a really broad, spectrum as well of services that a lobbyist can do. But what is a lobbyist by definition? It's an individual that works to have a government amend a legislation, remove a legislation, or add a legislation. It's influencing in legislations, and obviously the way Canada wants to regulate this is very much different from how the United States does it. Canada, we're much more restrictive in the things that a lobbyist can do, and how they can work with private industry. In the United States, you'll find that a lot of the politicians' constituents are these lobbyist groups rather than the population that they're supposed to be serving, where Canadian laws help to prevent that from happening here. But that's what a lobbyist is. Now, the type of work lobbyists do, lobbyists, they tend to get a really bad rap, but that's just because those are the people who get the most attention, is the ones that are doing the most newsworthy things, right? So, for example, the oil and gas lobby can tend to get a bad rap because, the environment. However, lobbyists can also do many, many great things for the environment. So while you have lobbyists maybe that are the same ones fighting for the oil and gas companies, there's lobbyists that are fighting for the environment. And I'll give you an example, something that you might recognize. Do you remember ever seeing an ad with a polar bear?
Yes.
The Coca-Cola ad, the Coca-Cola ad with the polar bear. So that was a massive lobbying campaign, because it was a message directed to the public at the right time. It's the right, let's call it the zeitgeist. It's the right spirit of the era. So it's not just about messaging. It's about timing as well. So we knew that was there was many different things happening in the environment at that time that knew it would resonate with people. So that's what ended up happening. So when the people want a particular thing to happen, politicians tend to have to support that. So for example, I would say that's an example of two different sides arguing for the same thing, or arguing on the same topic, but against two opposing different sides. But they're both lobbyists, but you know what I mean? One is easy. One is looked upon as doing something good, while the other is very, very negative.
Thank you for the clarity and the explanation of that. I want you to go back and if you can give some memories of the first early days of your business, of Arctech, or the first early days like.
The first early days. You know what? I came into Arctech anticipating that we were going to, as any other business would, face some tough times and trying to get clients and try to get your name out there. But that ended up, happening a lot faster than I even anticipated as well. I didn't recognize that there was a big vacuum in the market for what we were offering. And I came into this business with the intention that I wanted to grow, but grow slowly and steadily. I knew I did not want to grow fast, even if I had a lot of companies coming my way. If I didn't feel competent enough and I didn't feel to have the right team and the right processes in place to handle, a large influx of work, then I would more than ready to reject work. So we ended up, doing a few projects for clients that I just knew some friends in the Ottawa area that owned some businesses. Ended up doing good work for them. They referred us to other friends of theirs that own businesses. And typically this would be companies in the research and development space or the service innovation space, but I would do good work for them. And then they would introduce me to more friends. And I ended up never having to spend a single dollar in marketing because.
Wow. Good. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah. We never did an AdWords campaign, never did a Google campaign, at least paid, everything was organic SEO, search engine optimization.
Yep.
And to this day, we reached our 10-year goal in a little under 5 years with $0 in marketing. Thank you. Wow. Congratulations. Thank you.
That is huge.
Yeah, it was definitely an accomplishment. Thank you.
So what have been some of the keys to reaching it in 5 years instead of 10?
I think going in with the right intentions. I didn't have a dollar amount as a goal at any point. I like what I do. I want to provide a good service, and I wanted to be very, very competent in everything we did. And I understood that if you're providing the service that you said you would to people, they'll come back. And generally, business is that simple. You say you're going to provide a service, and you provide it well. And if there's a need for it, people are going to purchase for it. And it just ended up being that there was a massive need for people needing funding from the government and not having any idea that it was possible. They only thought that it was these big corporations, or enterprises or medium-sized corporations that can win grants or get money from the government. But literally every single company we've ever met, whether they're a mom and pop shop or all the way up to an enterprise, has had money on the table that they've left there just because they didn't understand that they could ask for it. They didn't know they could ask for it. And they didn't know what they could ask for it for, how to ask for it in a proper proposal. Sometimes it's as small as one word. One word in an application can disqualify the entire application, and you can be 99% accurate. But the Canadian government, it's not their job to try to help you in that proposal. If it's not submitted correctly the first time, you can be rejected, and you can think that, all right, I just give up with this. With the right advice, companies can leverage resources to really, really help them grow, and especially Black entrepreneurs.
Okay, you're reading my alleged mind. We're going to go down that walkway in just a moment.
Sounds good. What I was going to say, it's not just Black entrepreneurs specifically. However, that is a recent priority, just because there's been shown there has been some systemic racism in our society, and they're looking to address that. But visible minorities, LGBTQ2 plus people, women in tech, these are all sectors that are really important to the federal government. So when you're submitting an application or a proposal, these can help win you some additional scoring points.
Nice. So since we are on Black Canada Talking, I do want to focus on the Black Canadian community and what your organization does. So I'm sure, and I know you're very aware of the environment, especially over the last 16 to 18 months in regards to Black organizations, especially nonprofit or Black entrepreneurs looking to get funding from the federal government. As we start off this conversation, what are your thoughts on how that has gone so far?
You know what? Right before I ask that question, can you do me a favor? I'm going to just plug in my computer right here just so it does not die on us.
No problem. I don't want you to die digitally or humanly. Right? We need you to live.
Yeah. It should have been charging, but I'm not sure.
No problem.
Yeah. So, how do I think the rollout of these grant programs has been?
Yes.
Specifically for Black entrepreneurs?
Correct.
Well, the only one that I know of that has been specifically for Black entrepreneurs, as I'm sure you know, one rolled out by FACE, the organization, and I don't have enough knowledge to give 100% view, but I can say that what I've been hearing from other people that are applying to these programs is it's a little bit too. There could be more assistance provided with the program. There definitely could. It's 100%. It's a fantastic effort the Canadian government's doing, and this is obviously a good first step to start to provide these programs. There's obviously going to be some hiccups along the road, and in rolling these out, and mistakes will be made. However, if they identify what those mistakes are and rectify them, I don't think it's going to be an issue. But with respect to the FACE program, it's a good start. I think there's been some bumps along how it's been rolled out. I think there could be more assistance given to the people that are wanting to apply, because at the end of the day, this is a proposal also that's going to be written out to the government that takes part in making these decisions as well. So they can be quite cumbersome. They can be quite complex, and putting in projections with respect to your company and writing a business plan, and especially if it's for a particular group of people that have been historically underserved, I would think that would be one of the first things they should do, is try to provide them some grant writing assistance. For example, a company such as the one that's rolling it out should also have proposal and funding specialists within them that are ready to assist applicants in putting these applications together. So that's the one, the program that is being rolled out by FACE. And the other programs, do you want me to get into a little bit more about?
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I want you to. One of the reasons why I do these conversations, I want people to see other faces and hear other voices. Your organization has evaluated experience and success with this. So this is why I brought you to the digital table today to share best practices, whatever you see that could fill the gaps, some other alternative thought processes. So I'm here to steer the ship. You're here to drive the ship.
All right, excellent. It's my pleasure. I'll be the captain for the rest of the conversation. I'm just kidding. But I'm saying that the other programs, like the CEWS program, which stands for Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, or the Canada Emergency Rent Subsidy, or the CEBA grant, which is the Canada Emergency Business Account. And there's a few other programs that have been available specifically throughout the COVID-19 crisis to help some businesses that I think have been a lifesaver. Again, there could be some things that have been done a little bit better. For example, there's the CEBA program, which can provide Canadians up a $60,000 loan, no interest loan, if it's paid within a certain period, and $20,000 of that is forgivable if you are able to pay the loan before, I think it's December 2022. These are, they've been amazing programs, have been really, really helpful. However, that's just a drop in the barrel of what can be available for entrepreneurs or businesses that look for some type of government support. But the first step that a company needs to do is identify who they are as an organization, which we like to describe as the company profile. So it's something like a lesser version of a business plan. It just answers the primary questions. Who am I? What is our company's mission? What is our, are we going to be a for-profit? Are we going to be a not-for-profit? Because different funding is available for either organization. So which type of structure will best fit our company? Do we have anything proprietary? Do we have any proprietary innovation? And then innovation isn't necessarily a hardware or software. Innovation could be just a new way of doing things. So do we have new processes in place as part of our company? Are there any women owners as part of our company? Are there any Black owners as part of our company? And once you've accumulated all of this information, and we put it in a form we like to call the intake process. And it should take 20 minutes to answer these questions, these high-level questions. But from there, you're able to we're able to conduct a search, and it's complimentary for many of our clients if you meet a particular criteria. But what we do then is we're able to conduct a municipal, provincial, and a federal search of all programs that you could be eligible for. And there are portals online that if you search government grant portal, the Canadian government grant if you Google this, you'll be able to see a variety of different resources. And this will provide you a high-level list of grants that you could apply for. Now, as with anything else in life, the devil's in the details. You have to understand how each of these grants work and how they'll work together, and the sequential, is there a sequential order of grants that I want to apply to? Because you can leverage smaller grants to win bigger grants, and then the medium-sized grants to win even larger grants. So or you can apply to 2 grants together to maximize funding. So this is through a process called grant stacking. So step 1 is, I'd say, understand who you are as a company, and then conduct a grant search, through any one of these government portals. And then it's really helpful to have a consultant, somebody like our organization, go through the options that are available to you and create, a funding strategy, what we like to call an action plan. So that's I'd say the most important thing to know when it comes to doing a grant search. The last thing I would say with regards to this is, managing expectations correctly is also important, because eligibility doesn't necessarily mean feasibility with grants. Like, if you're eligible for something doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win it. So looking at who are the other applicants.
So I really want you to emphasize that, because that's very, very important.
Right. Yeah, 100%. And that's another reason that can discourage people from applying to grants, because they could be applying to something just because they feel that they're eligible, and every year they might not be winning it, not understanding that they're competing with, it could be not enterprise corporations, because enterprises aren't typically able to apply, but other SMEs, which stands for small and medium-sized enterprises here in Canada, 500 or less employees. So some of these SMEs are going to have way bigger of a capacity to execute on a particular opportunity, or a grant, or a tender. So you're eligible to apply, but these are still competitions. So if you're not able to compete with somebody that is going to be able to offer the government much more positive perspective, program being rolled out, then you're most likely not going to win. So, having somebody with you that has the experience to understand what's a grant you have the feasibility of winning, do you have the right type of team behind you, what are the economic benefits to Canada and what you're doing. But I'd say that's the main important part with respect to, feasibility. Now, what I wanted to get to, though, is, managing expectations also with respect to I'd say the type of grants you can win. So I don't want to discourage people and say if you're not doing something in research and development, then you're not eligible for. But that I would say is one of the largest parts of funding. You need to be doing something new in the market. Right, so you need to be doing some sort of something new or a not-for-profit. But if you're, let's say, just like, how do I describe this? Let's say it's an established industry, something like an insurance salesman, or you open up a restaurant, or you're not doing something new for the market. There won't be much incentive for the government to want to fund you, because the funding has to further the Canadian economy in some way. And many of the times companies are doing something like that, except they don't know what that is. And we help you identify what is innovative about you, you could argue the government, the main reasons why you can argue to government to receive funding. But let's say that. So let's say like you're not doing anything innovative. You're not interested in creating new processes. You're not a not-for-profit. You're a for-profit company, and you own a bar, or you own a restaurant or something. There's still funding available for you. It might not be as much as a company that's doing, research and development or groundbreaking work, but there's something called the Federal Youth Employment Strategy, which can allow you, for example, to hire staff with 30 30 years old or under.
Yep.
You're allowed to hire them, and there's programs that can give you the funding to cover 100% of their wages for 6 months or even more of that. So that could be very helpful for companies as well. So there's always something, that's why I say don't be discouraged, and it's always worth it to take a look. If you're planning to invest into your business, always first check to see what can my business apply for.
I love what you've just broken down, because I have many business people, Black Canadian business people, who are trying to get grants. And what you just shared there in the last 5 to 7 minutes has never been said to them.
Yeah, that is a common theme with the people that we speak about. Yeah, that's just, the government can do a particular better job in telling people what is available to them, and it definitely should be encouraged more.
Well, I look at what you and your organization is doing is taking people out of the forest and having them see the trees. Would that be a good analogy?
That's a good analogy. I like that very much.
Yeah, just adding positive value wherever I can in regards to this. With your organization, are there specific areas that let me ask, before the pandemic, look at where your business was doing your energy. Is it the same areas you're doing energy now as it was before the pandemic?
Good question. I would say there actually has been little change with respect to funding. It's because the types of programs that was rolled out due to the pandemic, like the ones that I described earlier, the SUS or the CBA, these aren't tied to any innovation or anything like this. This is just because the government had put restrictions on organizations to do business. So in order for them to remain viable or just to survive, they offered these programs that are just based on accounting. If you spent a certain amount of money in the year previous and you can demonstrate that you made less amount of money this year, they can, obviously then, relate that to being due to the COVID. So these programs, they're not the same proposals as I'm talking about. The proposals I'm talking about, the merit isn't on how much money you've lost. The merit is on your arguments to the government and your benefits to Canada, and or the merits of the specific innovation or the process. These ones are a competition that you have to be the best on, or one of the best. Because some of them have, as long as the funding pool exists, you can still win funding. But for example, if it's a tender, which is a contract, they're only looking for one company to take it over, that's going to be a lot more competitive. So I'd say, the grants that we typically work with, that hasn't changed, because the companies that are working on, innovation or not-for-profit sectors, for example, they're continuing to do their work. I noticed that they haven't been affected in the same way as, let's say, the service industry has been affected. And
sure,
I'd say that because these types of organizations that are doing R&D, COVID didn't affect them in the same way. However, some of them did. Like for example, airports and whatnot, they have new grants available to them that nobody else has. But the landscape, in my view, hasn't changed too much in the next year. However, if I think another year or two, then our sector would start to get affected as well.
Sure. You had mentioned, or we had talked earlier about Black Canadian entrepreneurs, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying you're having more approach you. Are you having more? Because I have, because what you've shared with us, the average Black Canadian entrepreneur, do you have something to offer them in order to help them get grants? Because a lot of the industries that your organization deals with, most Black Canadian entrepreneurs do not deal with. Is there serviceability for Black Canadian entrepreneurs when it comes to the services that your organization provides?
Yes, good question. So I would say that the fact that you are a Black entrepreneur in Canada and you're applying to the federal government, asking them for money, just that fact that there has been a lot of, let's say, different oppressive states in our society for the Black entrepreneur. They've recognized that. So if we're able to, if you're arguing for government, I mean money from the federal government, you can identify as a Black entrepreneur, and that can help you in your application because they might give you certain types of considerations and other points. So that's definitely important. But I think there needs to be a lot more. You know, the FACE program, like I said, is the only other one which is complex. It's difficult. It's also very competitive. So I think there needs to be something like a Futurepreneur Black program or Black grant for entrepreneurs. But but going back just to answer your question directly, not too many. There needs to be more programs that are based specifically for Black entrepreneurs. But the fact that you are a Black entrepreneur will give you additional points when you are applying for a grant program. So definitely, it's something we need to look at in right now. And I think you know, these people just need to. There's no harm in trying. So they need to definitely go out there and need to apply, and they need to identify as a Black entrepreneur in those applications.
Does your organization do any work or pitching, for lack of a better term, to non-government entities?
Good question. Yeah. So the Bell Media Grant, for example, is a grant that's non-government that we work with, and but
we need to talk about that offline. Go on.
Sounds good. We'll have a discussion, but 100%, and but the vast majority are going to be from the government. Right.
You've been doing this for a while. How has it become an easier process for the entrepreneur, or is it still for the Black entrepreneur or is it still a challenge? Because obviously we talked about the FACE example where I'll admit too, I've heard a lot of people say it's very challenging. And that's their organization, but is working with the government, is it the same, easier, more difficult when it comes to the grant process, in your opinion?
I don't think so. I don't think it has been that much more difficult when you're writing a grant application for the government with respect to the other programs. It's and I'm sorry, am I answering your question correctly? Are you asking? No. Is it hard to apply for a government grant?
No, well, I'm not saying it's how is the government managing the programming? Are they easy to work with? Like, because I know organizations that get denied a grant, they try to call to find out why they didn't get it. They don't get any answer. So is
not much better. Not much better.
That's what I was asking.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question earlier. My audio cut out a little bit, but
no,
it's they're not much better at all. I'd say they will at least respond to you, because I've heard sometimes when you respond to that FACE program, you'll see that many people don't even get a response, but the government will at least respond, but it will be very plain, very little, will not provide you any. They're not going to say, hey, let me tell you what you did wrong specifically in your grant application in these particular areas, and if you fix this, you have much. It's not that way. Say there's been due to high demand, yours has not been selected. Essentially, that's the advice you're going to be getting.
Do you think that could be done better? Now, and I know that you work with them, so if you want to be careful with your answering,
I'd be happy to. But I'd say if they were really good at that, then we wouldn't have any reason to exist, right? The reason why we exist is because, and not just over the past years. I'm talking decades, and I'm not just saying the Canadian government. It's just kind of how government works. And overall, they're bureaucratic, right? They're in nature. They're not. So this is why the Canadian government, a lot of times, they put tenders out there for private industries to do government services, because so they're going to be able to
no they put private industry for government work.
Well, not government worker. I'd say work that's paid for by taxpayers. So things like it can be like garbage, or maintaining landfills or things like this. That are a lot of things in the private, like nursing homes or other things. But especially when it comes to anything having to do with technology or innovation. But so the government is where they're better at is having resources or application guidelines provided when an individual wants to try to apply it for a grant or a proposal on their own. But again, even there's holes there because the terminology can sound like legalese to a lot of people. So the government is, I'd say, better because they've had more experience than the FACE program for Black entrepreneurs, but they're still very, very poor in helping people get better. Because if you almost received a scoring card back,
right,
that would be
helpful.
Very, very infinitely helpful, because then you understand which areas am I weaker. But again, that sometimes those skill sets and understanding kind of how to develop those types of arguments, if you're not going to be in that industry, it might make sense to just work with somebody and help you assist in these applications, unless you're planning to write them in volume. For example, not-for-profit organizations, a lot of the time they're based on grant funding or government funding. So for them, they're going to try to apply to as many things as possible to try to to survive. But does that help answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It does. One of the things I'm becoming more and more of a proponent of is organizations also not only look at government funding, but private funding.
Yeah, private funding or crowdfunding.
Yeah, or what? Well, even from sponsorship stuff to all that, because as you mentioned, there are so many people wanting that one slice of pie. Right.
Yeah, definitely. Private funding exists. Just it's not as prevalent as government funding, because the incentives, for a private organization to use their the revenue they've been generating and just essentially give it back to the public at no cost is not something that they're mandated to do. Whereas as a government, it makes sense for you to want your population to be successful in what they do, because when they make money, they're successful. You're paying taxes as well, so you're creating jobs as well, and the people that are creating jobs they're going to be paying taxes and buying products, and all that eventually will stimulate an economy as a whole. So that's why the governments tend to offer many more grant programs than private industry. But private industry will do it for many different reasons. Some of them could be very genuine and for good causes.
Yes.
And a lot of that could be public relations or just perspective, right? How they want to be perceived. Or sometimes, for example, if a company, let's say an oil company, does an oil spill and damages a lot of, environment in the ocean or the ecology, then they could provide funding for grants to companies for innovations that can help combat, sea disasters. So, for example, that's going to help their PR because they did something to do with
alignment. Yeah, there's alignment.
Exactly.
Just thinking here in regards to what sort of suggestions would you give Black Canadian entrepreneurs who are there any areas from where you sit that are more, if you have a good proposal, if you have the mentorship or you're working with an organization like yours, do you see any areas of opportunities that Black Canadians could be targeting that would enhance our opportunity to get grant funding? Let's put it that way.
Specifically, if I'm speaking to the Black audience, I'd say just because you're not going to see too many programs that are specifically for Black people, the fact that they are Black and in business, that's going to be their benefit in of itself. But there's not going to be one specifically. But if I'm going to give advice, if I'm speaking to the Black community, I'd say is to definitely don't be discouraged if you're not approved for a grant application, because you'll get better and you'll eventually understand those skill sets. If you're planning on applying in a more regular basis, but if not, have somebody who has experience in that industry look over your work just once or twice. And sometimes, as I mentioned, it could be as small as a word or two, but don't get discouraged, apply, understand all your opportunities out there. So understand where to look for grants, understand how to utilize government portals to search for grants, and do this on a frequent basis. I'd say every 3 to 6 months, look at the government portals and see what grants are available, because the new programs get rolled out at a very constant basis, especially after March 31st. So after March 31st, that's going to be the end of the government fiscal year. So starting on April 1st, this is when government departments will receive funding. So I'd say apply closer to April 1st, because these are the dates where government will have the most funding. And don't apply blindly. As I mentioned, understand everything you're eligible for and then create a strategic approach in applying for these programs. Because, for example, there could be a program called IRAP, which is the Industrial Research Assistance Program, that can provide you funding anywhere from $50,000 to $10 million if they want to invest into your company that's doing any sort of R&D. But they can give you money to commercialize as well. So if they give you, let's say, $50,000 for commercialization, which means getting your business out there in the market and you started selling it, then you're disqualified from applying to a program called the Innovation Solutions Candidate Testing Stream. They can give you $500,000 because one of the criteria of that program is you have to be pre-commercial. So you wouldn't want to shoot yourself in the foot and accept $50,000 and disqualify yourself from $500,000, because that program allows you to still apply to IRAP after you apply to it. So you can win both if you just apply correctly. Or another example is IRAP, before you apply for them, they want you to have a full-time person on as a staff member. You need to have a full-time employee. And if you don't have the budget for that, you can leverage a smaller grant to hire an employee. And then now when you meet that criteria, you can apply for the IRAP. And if you meet and then utilize IRAP funding to make you eligible for an even larger grant. So if it's done correctly, you can access hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars of funding from the Canadian government by just having that timeline, that vision of when you're applying for programs and what parts of the year. So you can easily do this every year as well and save so much of your budget. And as I mentioned previously, the fact that you are a Black entrepreneur, the Canadian government understands you face some adversity that other applicants may not have. So you will receive some extra consideration for that. So every year, look consistently every 3 to 6 months. Apply around, April 1st is usually when government will have the most money. So that's when they fund all of the different departments. And as I said, don't give up. If you're planning to apply on a consistent basis, continue to apply and your skill sets will improve. Or if you're not planning to apply on a consistent basis on your own, you don't need to understand, how to be a grant writer or a proposal specialist, then, reach out for help. We're Arctech Accelerate as well. We give a lot of complimentary advice to, especially Canadians if they're looking to see how they're going to access funding, because, we like to provide that knowledge, and that knowledge shows goodwill into the market. And we know when a person becomes in the position that they will need us later in the future, they'll think of us first, because we know we are the ones who kind of guided them towards direction when nobody else was able to at any given time.
Well, I think we just got a masterclass. We got a Tarig masterclass. I'd like to, and our producer, I have given the information. If you can put your organization's website address on the screen, I think it very, very helpful what you've provided today. And as I said, just from me, and I'll be open. I don't like using the word transparent because everyone uses transparent. I have had the opportunity to sit down with this young gentleman, and he added a lot of clarity and extra positive value to some of the visions I have. So I verify, and I verify what the organization they're doing, and it gave a lot of clarity. So certainly check out the organization. The website address is there, Arctech Accelerate.ca. Any other final words, Tarig, that you want to leave with us today?
No, you know what? The only thing I'll leave you with is, feel free to look at our website, shoot us a message, let them know that you've seen us from the Dr. Vibe show, and we'll be able to give you some extra consideration for sure. And so definitely reach out to us, even if you're looking to just ask some questions or have some clarity, and we'd be happy to work with you and answer your questions.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I know we're going to have you back more often because you've added extra positive value here. My name is Dr. Vibe. I'm the host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020. Best Podcast News Award winner and 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethic Media Association. I also host the only online show in the world for fathers and dads that is sponsored by Dove Men Care and co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. And in collaboration with those two organizations, I've been able to reach out to directly or indirectly over 75,000 fathers and dads around the world this year. Very humbled with that accomplishment. But you know what? It's not accomplishment. It's that passion. And I also am the board chair for an organization called the Global Food and Drink Initiative, which is a multimedia not-for-profit that showcases Blacks in the diaspora that are doing their thing in food, drink, and travel. Show alert. Show alert, show alert, show alert. We are broadcasting live here on September 12th. For those who are in Canada, unless your head has been in the sand, we have a thing called an election coming up on September 20th. So 2 show alerts coming up. September 14th at 9 p.m., wherever you're watching this live, whatever platform you're watching this live, we're going to be doing a roundtable / town hall about the upcoming federal election. There will be no politicians on. I will have the members of the Black Canada Talking Roundtable. That's Elle Jones, Sarah Youngo, Cesar Nedima Musa, and Warren Clark. We'll be talking about the election from a Black Canadian perspective. What we like, what we don't like, what is not being said, what is being said. And we also have another special panelist for that conversation, Louis March, who is the head of the Zero Gun Violence movement here in Toronto. So that is on the 14th at 9 p.m. And if please subscribe to especially the YouTube channel, and we'll keep you up to date on what's going on. Then on the night of the election itself, we haven't determined the exact start time. It'll either be 9 p.m. Eastern time or 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. We'll have most of those individuals back talking about election results that night and their impact on Black Canada and Black Canadians. So I'm putting it out there right now. You know where you want to be this Tuesday night and also on the night of the election. You can watch other platforms, but you're not going to get astute, intelligent commentary from a Black Canadian perspective on the election results. So, as always, I'd like to just close out with what I always do. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. And also, remember to give yourself grace. And finally, thank you to BIA Media for the production on today's conversation. God bless, peace to well, keep the faith, and walk good. And remember, especially give yourselves grace. We'll see you throughout the upcoming week. Bye-bye, everybody.